Our keynote speaker is the CEO of the Canadian Museum for Human Rights, Isha Khan, who is coming from Treaty 1 territory, which I so happen to also have the privilege to come from. Isha Khan is a lawyer and community leader dedicated to advancing human rights and equality. Since 2020, she has served as the CEO of the Canadian Museum for Human Rights and leading community engagement education through storytelling. Her career includes legal practice, public service, and advocacy on systemic discrimination. Over to you, Aisha.
Good evening. Bonsoir. Anine, bonjour. Senator McPhedran, I may make up some time because many of the things I wanted to cover have been covered by our illustrious MCs. So let's see how we do. What an absolute honor it is to be in this room this evening, in this house, with all of you. So whether, like me, you come from territories governed by the numbered treaties or from unceded or self-governed lands, like you, it's when we gather in rooms like this, in a house like this, that I think about the importance of relationship to each other and to all living things, and the beauty of this system that is holding us together, the very system that I'm pretty sure we're also trying to change. And frankly, how humbling is it to be in this House of Parliament among great leaders, women leaders, femtors, experts, advocates, lawmakers, protectors, guides, representatives, friends, upholders of our democracy, believers, and I see you all, of our shared humanity. Les défenseurs de notre démocratie, les personnes qui croient en notre humanité partagée, merci de m'avoir donné l'occasion de partager quelques mots avec vous ce soir. Whether we all know each other here this evening or not, frankly, some of you, I know so much of you, but we don't know each other just yet. Your reputation precedes you. I can also feel something in this room, and I think you can too. What I feel is collective will. The kind of will, and we just heard about that, the kind of will that drives change. We have it here, it's within our grasp until it kind of moves and shapes and changes a little bit. Sometimes it looks like, it feels like it strengthens the floor under our feet. Sometimes it sort of tickles at our shoulders and lifts us up. Often, it spurs our memory and our intellect as we work hard late into the night. Or sometimes it's just pushing firmly at our backs to take the next step forward. And always, that will drives energy from our hearts. Look, I know that talking about things that we can't see, that we are feeling, is a pretty tough position in a crowd like this, amongst leaders like you who are driven by intellect and have many, many accomplishments. But I gotta tell you, I am a firm believer that if we name the things that we feel, we open ourselves up to the recognition that we don't know it all, that we are still learning. And when we do this, we invite others with vulnerability in. And that is the place where we find our interconnectedness, because we are a collective. We are the system. So now what is that existential place that we're in where we are the system and at the same time we demand the system, we fight the system, we uphold the system, and we try to change the system? You'll always hear me say the most simple thing: we've got work to do. So today is about honoring the work between parliamentarians and civil societies and leaders to share and reflect, and I'm so excited to be part of these dialogues. These are the dialogues that inspire our collective will, that soothe it, that care for it, but of course also make it stronger. And surely that is why all of you are here tonight. Let me, like others, just start by acknowledging my gratitude for the work of all the parliamentarians in this room here on issues of human rights, the work of addressing systems that support inequity or are riddled with barriers to inequality, so often that the issues that are really easy for people to ignore or leave or figure that they're too complicated, the issues that fall in and out of our news cycle but persist. And they challenge our democratic values in our country, our correctional system. Forced and coerced sterilization, forced labor and child labor, human trafficking, humanitarian aid, forced displacement, and systemic discrimination in all of its forms. Thank you. Thank you to everyone in this room who contributes to those conversations, to that lawmaking, to that debate that leads to change in our society. Let me also, for a second, acknowledge my gratitude also for living in this country. Human rights are enshrined in our Constitution, and there is anti-discrimination law in every province and territory from coast to coast to coast. I can access health care. I can love who I want. There is joy most of the time. I am becoming more comfortable with being able to express my gratitude for this, while at the same time acknowledging that that isn't the case for so many in this country and for many people around the world. Call it naming privilege, call it what you will. I call it being able to walk and chew gum. If my numbers are correct, as of 2025, women hold 30% of the members of parliament were women in Canada's federal in our federal cabinet, of course, in the House. And in 2020, I think, was the only time we had gender parity in the Senate for a brief period of time before that shifted again. We know that the wage gap is still 89 cents on the dollar earned by men, and the wage gap for Indigenous and racialized women is greater. We see the inequity obviously more pronounced when the economy's down, when threats of foreign influence become socialized, when polarity is amplified, and of course access to health and education and housing seem elusive. I could bring a whole bunch of statistics to this room tonight, but I've chosen not to, because you can look them up and because they're there for our analysis, and they lead us to reason that there is inequity, that there is disparity, and that there is inequality in all spheres and sectors in this country, and it is demanding us to respond. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to talk a little bit about belief and the feeling, just for a few moments. To those who do not believe that we can state that we are grateful and we are proud of all the accomplishments that we've made as women, as leaders, as a society, but at the same time say that we also want more, I just did. And you can too. I'm raising 3 daughters, young adults, one's here today, and they are killing it. And at the same time, I can also recognize that people all over the world don't enjoy the same rights and privileges that I do or my family does in Afghanistan, in Syria, in South Sudan, in Palestine, to name a few. And I can recognize that in my country that I am so proud of, there is an MMIWG2S crisis. There is a rollback on trans rights. There is anti-Semitism and there is anti-Palestinian racism, and they are rattling our institutions and our families. And there is a dynamic space of cultural rights, identity, and religious freedom and secularism, and that space is struggling. I see here an opportunity for us to define who we are as a collective, how we look after one another, and I know that you do too. So, what does this tell us? Human rights are at the foundation of our democracy. They are not the North Star. They are our foundation, and we have to remember that. They are the foundation of our democracy and our democratic institutions, and the impact and influence that flows from them is, as we all know, at risk. Quick sidebar, I was in a junior high school several months ago talking to a bunch of kids, trying to keep them excited about human rights, not sure if anyone was listening. I think their teachers prepped them pretty well, so because they had some prepared questions. Talked a bit about human rights, talked about the Canadian Museum for Human Rights, and at the very end, one young boy stood up and asked the question, and he said, "What are human rights anyway? Look at what's happening with all the war and conflict around the world and people dying. Do we really even have human rights?" I stopped for a second. I scrambled. We do. We do have human rights. And we have to, more importantly, believe that we do. Because we have to find a way to move through this time. You heard about the ebb and flow. There is ebb and there is flow, and we have to see our way through this together and be good to each other as humans as we do. Because the principles of human rights that we hold on to, that we must hold on to, give us a language of accountability that we have to hold ourselves to. There's no question our structures are being rattled in ways that they haven't before, but honestly, abandoning them now can't be the answer. And when I looked at that kid, I thought, I can't see this young person growing up and thinking I have no faith in these structures. But in my heart, of course, I'm questioning these structures. I needed him to believe that we have institutions and structures and a system that will uphold human rights. International law, rule of law, these things matter, and there's a lot of talk right now about what we do with them. They're being threatened. What can we do? We will find the answer if we have the collective will, and we will move through this. So in these times of growing polarity, misinformation, disinformation, media saturation, artificial intelligence, the chatbots, we see a conveniently growing movement to question our structures and laws, our mechanisms of accountability. This year is 46 years that we celebrate the Section 15 equality provision. Just walk down and look at some of the things on that table. It is amazing. Reinforced by, Section 15 obviously reinforced by the notwithstanding clause, and Senator McPhedran read from it in her opening. Notwithstanding anything in this charter, the rights and freedoms are guaranteed equally to male and female persons. Think about that. Repeat it often. Tell that kid. Tell another kid. Tell him to tell his friends. Did you know that the Canadian Museum for Human Rights did a study 2 years in a row across Canada, just a survey to check on what is the pulse, what's the status of human rights, what do people think of it in Canada? I can tell you a couple of things that are pretty interesting. People are generally optimistic about human rights within the country. Granted, this was 2024, but I'm going to hold on to that. Many people believe meaningful progress, women's rights, and gender equity are things that they've seen progress in. At the same time, not surprising, people feel less optimistic about human rights globally. There's a deep concern about conflict, instability, and the erosion of women's rights. The global pressures are influencing how people feel at home and their sense of security, their worldview, and their level of social trust that they are bringing into their workplaces. Another key insight, people in Canada care deeply about human rights. And they believe the responsibility for protecting them should be shared. That floored me. That's not what I'm getting in my doom scrolling late at night, usually. That's not what I'm getting in reading most of the news that I read. They do care. 3/4 of respondents told us that every person has a responsibility to look out for the rights of others in their community. 70% believe that all businesses should be accessible to people with disabilities, regardless of the cost. I'm holding on to that. You can check out our website, humanrights.ca. There's a lot of very disturbing other things that we got out of that survey, but I'm giving you some good ones this evening, because that's usually what keynotes do. So, as I wrap up, what does this mean for us? The demand on our collective is crystal clear. I'm really excited to dialogue tonight and over the course of tomorrow, so to listen and learn about ways that we can hold space for two truths, for celebration and pride but also for despair or determination for change. Every one of us who has ever actioned change, and you're all in this room, knows that we must be able to acknowledge complexity, imperfection, and nuance. That systemic change is a long game, and it's rarely achieved in one electoral cycle with one checklist, one strategy, one bill that becomes law. It is slow, it is incremental, it is plodding, and people will come in and out of our collective, but it will have a power of its own. And that is our accountability to the collective. We get to choose when we show up and how we do, and we give ourselves permission to remove ourselves from the collective when we need to, because somebody else is there to pick up the strength of the system and the gap we leave. When one of us is challenged, we are all challenged. And when one of us thrives, of course, we all thrive. And there's hope. So let us tonight refuel a little bit our collective. Let us speak openly of feelings, of thoughts, because it's from our hearts and minds that will is born. And it's kind of tangible. I leave you with a question to ponder, a really simple one. What keeps you of speaking of your feelings? The exhaustion that comes from regulating one's emotions, code shifting, modeling decorum, taking the high ground, thinking strategically about consequence and the next step. Worry that your hormones are going to be weaponized, for those of you who share my time in life. What holds us back from naming our feelings? Ask yourself. And while I'm on feelings, I cannot leave this podium without specifically acknowledging the invitation of Senator McPhedran to be here this evening to her team for their beautiful event and warm welcome. Senator McPhedran, I'm going to say this because she's not going to plan a party for herself, so I think everyone will take a little bit of room to do this. I'll be quick. She embodies so many of the qualities that I believe define our collective. Respect, kindness, generosity, resistance, honor, honesty, intellect, principle, and a long memory. Her service to this country and to human rights for all is the subject of a very long keynote address that is not for this evening. But we know that she has femtored and shaped a generation of young people and been an ear for generations of others in this country to understand what human rights are, what Section 15 was intended to recognize, what responsibilities to folks around the world looks like. She has shown up, she has lifted up, and she has spoken up. And for that, I speak for all of us for a moment, who value the belief that we are all born free and equal in dignity and rights, and with respect. Senator McPhedran, we thank you. Miigwech, merci de tout nos cœurs. Thank you.